Peace, 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 peace. Welcome to the Revolutionary Wealth Builders Facebook channel. You're in for a treat today. You guys are going to be able to follow me today as I teach a tutorial or do my weekly interaction on a Facebook live chat called The Live Truth. And so we have some powerful information that we have gathered today. And I'm excited to have everybody back. I want to say thank you to all of the new subscribers. And I want to thank everybody who has been supporting this YouTube channel. The goal is 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. So hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell for me. And so what you guys are going to experience is you're going to experience me interacting directly with our Facebook chat, because typically on this video we would get 500 to 1,000 viewers. So most of my comments will be over here on our other streaming device. And so, but if I do get any comments or any chat going on over here on YouTube, I will make certain that I come over here and address it. And so you guys are in for a treat today. We'll be talking about the life and death cycle of the dollar. I've pulled together some very important information, and I'm excited about that. As usual, we're bringing wealth education to the people. This is what we do, and it is important that we position ourselves to get prepared for this big economic reset that's getting ready to take place in the United States. And so that's what we're doing. And so don't say anything. We're getting ready to go over here to Facebook Live, and we're going to get started over here. And welcome to everybody who comes into the YouTube stream. And I hope you guys enjoy this information, and I hope it is beneficial to you. Peace, peace, peace. What's up, Facebook? Friends, family. So we're streaming over on YouTube as well. If you go over on YouTube, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm excited because, so I'm gonna wait till everybody get on, but I mean, today is a wonderful day. I have all types of technology now, but we just really getting started. And so I see Daniel's on, Mariah Cooper, Melvin Moore. How you doing, Mel? I hope the family is doing well. I need everybody to open up a watch party for me if you have time, or if you know how to do it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to build up the subscriber base, and we're trying to gain some momentum. When we get the numbers up in about the next 3 or 4 minutes, I'm going to start to begin my conversation as it relates to all of the calls, emails, and private messages I got as words of encouragement to actually build and invest in the YouTube platform stream, so we could, reach more people with this very important message. And so I see Marcus jumped on. Yeah, so we getting up there. We getting up there already. I hope all is well. I hope everybody is taking care of themselves, considering the circumstances. I want everybody to remain and stay safe. Don't be over anxious to make too many moves. Give it some time, and just pay attention to the things that are going on around you. Keep your hand on the pulse of the media. Can sometimes skew information. So you want to use your alternative media. You want to use word of mouth in the conversations that you're having with other people, but you also want to rely on your own common sense and knowledge. You want to use, what are your eyes telling me? Like, for example, my eyes are telling me that the comorbidity rates are decreasing, and people, what's up, Dre? And people are, at one point in time, the death toll was really, really high as it relates to the pandemic. And now it seems as if it's starting to subside, not because the media is telling me so, but because of anecdotal evidence, the people that I come in contact with and talk to every day. But be mindful that there has been rumblings that there could be a second wave, so we want to remain careful. And so I just want to leave you with that before we get started. What's up, E. Laurie? I see E. Laurie has jumped on. And so in a couple more minutes, we're going to go ahead and get started with our discussion. How's everybody doing? Anybody have any birthdays coming up? Any powerful information you want to share? Any milestones? Anybody have any good information to share? Okay. So as we get started, I'm going to go ahead and start to tackle the first part of this. The first part is the housekeeping. I would like for everybody to open up a watch party and you like, share, subscribe over on YouTube. This is happening because I received multiple phone calls, multiple emails, and multiple private messages explaining that I needed to get the quality of video increased. I needed to do some things differently in order to reach more people. Initially, for me, I just wanted to do something every week to make sure that I was delivering information to the people that I felt would be beneficial, I just wanted to make sure that I was bringing information and knowledge to the people that I felt would be beneficial to them. And so I was satisfied with the way things were going. But as people began to really appreciate how comprehensive the content had began to be, they started to encourage me and nudge me into a direction where they were saying, look, you're going to have to increase the quality of the videos. Hey, what's going on, Sister Shamikia? You had to increase the quality of the videos, and you need to do something to reach more people. And so that's what we've been doing. And so we've been working for about the last week. On getting the quality. Like, look at the quality of the video. Doesn't it look better? You see the lighting. Remember how dark it used to be, where it would seem as if we were in a dungeon? Hey, Danny. And Danny always opens up a watch party for me, so I know I don't have to worry about that. But everybody who is watching, go over to YouTube, click, subscribe, hit the notification bell so we can transfer all of this over to YouTube. The goal is 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. And so how do I start a watch party? Usually there's a button when I join, but don't see it now. Can somebody help Shamikia Nichols with that? Help her turn on a watch party. And so, but also something that is more important. So I'm investing in this equipment. I'm investing in these different platform streams. I need everybody who appreciates what we're doing to do something for me. If you don't want your family members begging for food, knocking on your door in an event that something that is beyond our control ends up hitting us, then you need to make sure that they are educated to put themselves in a position to be prepared. What's going on with you, Eric Reed? And so what I want everybody to do is think about the family members that they love. If you love your family members like I know you do, then they need access to this information. If they won't listen, keep sending them the link. Tell them to subscribe, and share over on YouTube, because we're going to be transplanting all of the information, moving over to YouTube eventually, and completely doing away with the weekly Facebook Live. And we may still go live on Facebook, but our attention will be moving towards YouTube. So I have close to 3,000 Facebook friends. So I should have 3,000 subscribers. And every week, these videos get between 500 to 1,000 views. That means all of those people should go over to YouTube, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to drop a link to the YouTube. I'm going to go in here right now, and I'm going to drop one of the links in the YouTube so everybody can go over to YouTube and subscribe. That's a link to one of the videos. So if you click on that link, you can go over to YouTube, watch, and then subscribe, hit the notification button. What's up, Trey Coop? What's up, David Bell? And so we have a few people watching over on YouTube. Feel free to say something. I'll shoot you something real quick. Hey, what's good, family? Question mark. And so I'll get the chat started over on YouTube. And so I'm excited, man. So we got the housekeeping stuff out of the way. If you love your family members, make sure that they go over to our YouTube page, share, and subscribe it. Even if you love your neighbors, because ultimately what we're going to be doing is we're going to be preparing ourselves for any and all calamity, issues and challenges that may be unseen or that we may not have realized yet, from food shortages to monetary resets, to all things safety, security, community, barterability, wealth preservation, all of those things. Very important. If you love your family, make sure that they have access to the information. There is no YouTube channel like this one, because this channel is for our people. And so there's no one out here accumulating this type of information and making sure that our people has access to it. Very important. And so if we want to survive and thrive through an economic reset, through pandemics and all these things, there's a certain amount of preparation that has to take place. But in order to prepare, you're going to need the education. Okay. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about, so today's show, I already sent out some advertisements for the show where we will be talking about the life and death cycle of the United States dollar. Before we even get into that, I want to talk about the psychology of the United States dollar. Here is the reality. We are psychologically subdued by the United States dollar. The United States dollar is all we have ever known. And if we are anywhere between the age of 10 and 80, we have no idea of what the real life cycles of the dollar actually have been through, because all we have known is the Federal Reserve note from 1913 until today that has only for the first 30 years of the Federal Reserve's, well, the first 20 years of the Federal Reserve's inception was backed by gold. And the reality that, and I know you guys know that I talk about precious metals a lot, but the most important thing that we're going to talk about today is when Franklin Delano Roosevelt took the United States off of the complete gold standard. And I'm going to explain how that had a profound impact on the dollar, how the United States uses the dollar, and how the dollar ever since has been diminishing in its value. We work for dollars. A dollar is a store of our energy and our labor and our proxy for our labor. We go to work, we work 40 hours, we make our $1,000 every 2 weeks or every week or whatever. And our 40 hours is stored into that check. When we cash the check, our 40 hours is stored there. It is proof that we did the work and we were compensated for that work. If the dollar fails, and as they hyperinflate it away, and as inflation, 2% inflation takes, what's going on, Timothy Washington, John Wayne, what's going on with you, Earl? As the dollar is inflating away, even on a short-term basis, before the hyperinflation, we are still losing our sweat equity and what we've invested in it. So, for example, the $1,000 that I made for 40 hours for that week, if I take that $1,000, put it up under my bed for 1 year, I lose at least 2% of that $1,000. And 2% is a lot of money. 2% is a lot of money out of $1,000. If I leave that same $1,000 under my bed for 5 years, I lose 10% of that money. So that $1,000 that was once $1,000 in purchasing power is only $800 in purchasing power. So your money will lose if it sits still and does nothing. And so today we're not going to particularly talk about investments. If you guys have questions, I'll answer them. But we're talking about the life cycle of the dollar so I can prepare you guys next week to talk about the importance of investing, because as the money sits still, you lose purchasing power in that money. What's up, Marcus? What's going on, China Raglan? How are you? Hey, Toy Lynn, how are you? So the most important thing we're going to talk about is FDR calling in the gold from the citizens and taking the United States off a gold standard. I'm going to explain all of it to you. And I'm going to explain how that gave the United States the license, not immediately after, but soon after. It gave the United States the power to print money. And when the United States prints money through processes like quantitative easing, and they start to increase their balance sheet, and when they spend that money into existence through debt, they literally are taking money out of your pocket. That's why steak now is, certain types of steaks are $40 a pound right now, because of the food shortages and because what they are doing to the money. Our money will purchase less and less in a very rapid period of time coming soon. And so I can't tell you what to do until you understand why you should be doing it, because you're not going to believe me, because I've been through this process with family members and friends. And so I know that we have to go through this part of the process first. So, and I'm okay with that because I love my people that much. If I'm invested in doing the research, I need you guys to invest in everybody that you know and make sure that they like, share, and subscribe over on YouTube, because this is a collective effort. This is not just me. This is your effort too. Every time you come on and watch, it gives me the energy to continue to do this work. And so I need you guys, just how we do the research, I need you guys as well. What's up, Audrey? How you doing, Kelly? Okay, so the psychology of the dollar. So they've convinced us that we work for this dollar. Some people lie, cheat, steal, kill, and will even sell their body for paper dollars. The paper dollar is made of cotton, and it costs 12 cents to make a paper dollar. What's up, Dexter Manny? Dexter M1. What's going on, D Solomon? And so it takes 1 second to push a button to print United States Federal Reserve notes. And in doing so, when they do that, they are devaluing the money that is already in existence. But more importantly, it costs 12 cents to make a $100 bill. It takes 12 cents to make one. And so it's easy for the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury to just print money in conjunction with one another. They can print as much of it as they want and do what they want with it. And when they do that, it devalues the money that we have already worked for. So think about it from this perspective. Why do you have to go out and work 4 hours in a day to make $100, but the Federal Reserve or the United States Treasury can just push a button and make 100 times the amount of $100 bills that you have in your pocket right now by pushing a button? That's how you have to understand this process. And so they have tricked us into believing that the United States dollar has a value. But like the European philosopher Voltaire said, all fiat currencies will return to their intrinsic value, which is zero. At some point, the United States dollar will go back to zero. Over 3,000 fiat currencies have existed since whenever, and they all have went back to zero. And the last two that just recently died is Zimbabwe currency and Venezuela's currency. So it's not as if it's been 50 years since a currency has collapsed and hyperinflated to zero. They all go to zero. They all will go to zero, including the United States dollar. This has been since the beginning of time, since the Roman times. Rome debased their currency, and that's what created the Byzantine Empire. When the Roman Empire collapsed, the Byzantine Empire was able to sustain itself because it went back to a sound money system. And that's why the Byzantine Empire was able to save itself. So just understand that we have been tricked into believing that the dollar has value. And the real sound money, which we're going to talk about later, is something that you will never hear financial experts, analysts, and wealthy people talk about, because that's what they always keep a secret. That's the secret. Less than 3% of our population actually has sound money in their possession. And when the economy resets, they estimate that over 90% of the United States population will have to live in poverty, because when the money devalues and you can't buy food, and once you run out of assets to liquidate, what are you going to have? Some of us will be okay because we have skills and we're creating communities to barter and do some other things. But my goal is to make certain that 90% of our population is not poor and impoverished. Hey, what's up, Renee Starks? And so the psychology of the United States dollar is that it has a value because it has a purchasing power. Don't misunderstand a purchasing power with a value. It's losing purchasing power every day. It has no value whatsoever, but it does still have purchasing power left. And the reason why it has purchasing power left is because we have confidence in it. And so because we have confidence in the United States dollar, it is still afloat. And that is the only thing saving the United States dollar right now. What's going on, Conscious? And so that's the only thing saving the United States dollar. Once the people realize that the United States dollar, it has no value. It's going to take $500 to buy a loaf of bread. And that's when it's going to get real tricky. And you want to be ahead of that curve by making sure you secure sound money. You have a pantry full of food and you are growing food, because you need to be able to survive and think in the short term to prepare for what your long-term outlook is going to look like. What's up, Tone AP Peterson? All right, so let's get started. So the first thing I want to pull everybody's coattail to, and if everybody could just open up a watch party and share, like, subscribe over on Facebook. The first thing I want to pull everybody's coat to is the first discussion of sound money principles in any legislation in the United States was the 1792 Coinage Act. In 1792, and I want to say Article 1, Section 10, in the United States Coinage Act of 1792. What's going on, Danny? They gave the dollar a definition. And the definition of the dollar in 1792 was 371.25 grains of silver. That is very important. Or 0.77 or 0.77 troy ounces of silver. What's up, Mika Peterson? That's important because in the United States Constitution, in the language of this country, they identified $1 as being 0.77 troy ounces of silver and 371.25 grains of silver. That's important to understand because the term dollar is a Spanish term. The term dollar is a Spanish term. The dollar that you see all the time, the green dollar, that's just a piece of paper, a Federal Reserve note with a 1 on it. A dollar is 371.25 grains of silver. That's going to be important as we get toward the end, because if it was $1 then, it's $1 now. Something else I want to point out to you is that one of the first dollars was the Morgan silver dollar of the 1800s, and then the peace dollar of the subsequent time after. So look up the Morgan silver dollar and the peace dollar. They are both silver dollars, and that was the first money. Money was coins for a very long time, and we're going to get into gold coins in a second. And money is still gold, and money is still silver and gold coins. All right, so the first time that a Federal Reserve Bank, the Federal Reserve, stepped on the scene was in the 1800s. President Andrew Jackson closed 2 central banks. One of them was called National Bank 1, and one of them was called like National Bank 2. He closed the second bank in 1836. There was an attempt on Andrew Jackson's life in 1835 because he was moving towards shutting down the central bank, what have been the national central bank of that time. Andrew Jackson knew that central banks would never have the people's interests at hand. Now, mind you, Andrew Jackson, of course, was a slave owner and a white man that was a part of building this country for his people. But when he was trying to shut down what they would call a Federal Reserve of that time, he was doing it for his people because it was the right thing to do. So irregardless of the fact that we were 3/5 of a man, quote unquote, by legal definition at that time, he was still battling a very powerful force in this country that would come back, would resurrect itself. And I'm going to get to that in a second. So why would they try to kill Andrew Jackson? Now, the guy that tried to kill Andrew Jackson was a unemployed painter. Very important. Unemployed. So it don't take nothing but a couple of dollars to pay. Who would want to kill the president? You know what I'm saying? So an unemployed painter, they paid him. I mean, that's what I think. I think they paid him. And so why would they do that? The same reason why they took care of Abraham Lincoln. Because anyone, as an individual, no matter what position you hold, if you get in the way of the power structure's ultimate goals of world dominance and supremacy over the economic system, you become a problem to them. And if they can't fix the problem in one way, they'll try to fix it in another way. But they failed with Andrew Jackson, and he was able to close down the central banks twice. So I wanted to just lay that foundation to get you guys to understand how powerful central banks are and the Federal Reserve actually is. So let's go to, so I have a lot of notes in front of me. So let's go to 1907. So Andrew Jackson was able, what's going on, Ebon? So Andrew Jackson was able to close the first two central banks. In 1907, J.P. Morgan of J.P. Morgan Chase fame was one of the most powerful and most wealthy men in the early 20th century. There was a bank run and financial crisis in 1907 called the 1907 financial crisis. During this time, there was a bank called Knickerbocker Bank. And it is argued that there was a conspiracy to send people to get their money out of all of the banks and make a bank run. And one of the first banks in New York was called Knickerbocker Bank. There was a bank run on this bank. What's going on? And there was a bank run on this bank. And during this bank run, a run on the bank is when you go get all your money out of the bank. The financial system began to collapse. And essentially what J.P. Morgan did was took his own money and pumped liquidity back into the system via that day's version of quantitative easing. But he didn't print money up. He used his own money. He was that wealthy where he put his own money back into the system to prop the system back up in 1907. So let's fast forward 3 years later, 1910, book that the brother Griffin, the gentleman last name Griffin, wrote, The Creature from Jekyll Island. So 3 years later, J.P. Morgan realized that if he was going to maintain his wealth and maintain his financial dominance over the world, and you have to realize this man had to be very powerful to be able to prop up the entire financial system in the United States with his own money at that time. But I suspect, my suspicion is he didn't want to have to do it again. So what he did was convene the powerful senators and other bankers and wealthy people at the time. What's up, Denisha? Of that time. And what he did is he sparked the fire, sparked the flame for the meeting on Jekyll Island in 1910. So they go to Jekyll Island, which is off the coast of Georgia, in 1910. They have a private meeting. And what people don't know about that meeting at Jekyll Island, it was so private that no one even knew that meeting existed until 20 years later. Hey, cousin Lolita. Hey, what's up, Sharon Dumas? Nobody even knew that meeting actually took place until one of the people in there, one of the attendees of the meeting, wrote a book and began to try to take credit of convening the meeting. And then truths came out because people started to talk. But by the time the Federal Reserve was reconstructed from the deconstructing of Andrew Jackson in 1836, the Federal Reserve that winter, right before Christmas, the Federal Reserve went for a vote. And when Congress, after Congress came back from the holiday and reconvened when the people were asleep, the people woke up and there was a Federal Reserve system in 1913. Why is that important? Because we're going to chronicle the dollar's life cycle from 1913, because that's when the Federal Reserve began. In 1913, and I'm laying some information on you so you will understand why everything is important. So in 1913, and I've told some of you this before, you could buy the average home for $3,600. At the same time, you could buy 175 ounces of gold for $3,600. Now, if you bring that house, that $3,600, and that 175 ounces in gold, and you get in a time machine and you travel to 2020 from 1913, you will get out of the time machine, and these will be the realities. $3,600 cannot buy the average home now. The average home costs $254,000. That $3,600 cannot buy, it can barely buy you a 2-bedroom shack in Brightmoor, let alone the average home in the United States, which is $254,000. But that 175 ounces of gold that $3,600 purchased in 1913, that 175 ounces of gold is now worth over $301,000. So not only could you buy the average home in the United States today with 175 ounces of gold from 1913, you would have some change left over. Very important for you guys to understand. What's up, Kevin Williams? Because if you own precious metals today, you can give them to your great grandkids. Gold has been here before we were all born, and it will be here before we leave. I mean, it'll be here after we leave. That's the importance of it. Gold and silver are real stores of your wealth and your energy, because it takes energy to mine it and refine it. It's real money. It's a completely different feeling of having that in your possession as opposed to fiat Federal Reserve notes. It's a different thing. There is no comparison. And if you don't understand that concept with what is getting ready to take place in the United States, there is a strong possibility that you will end up poor. You take that information however you want to take it. And I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how much money you have accumulated. And I don't care how many assets you have accumulated, unless they are land, unless they are real estate, unless they are cattle, and unless you are farming. If your wealth and you make a lot of money is tied up in paper assets, and I don't care which version of paper assets they are, you are probably going to take a severe haircut in your wealth, and you are not going to be happy about it. I'm going to leave that there for a minute. So we were in 1910. So they convened in right off the coast of Georgia at Jekyll Island. 1913, the Federal Reserve is reconstructed from 1836. So the first major catastrophe, which is similar to modern day, was the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918-1919. Very important because Renee, hey, what's up, Renee? Because subsequently what happens is a depression comes. So they had the first wave. They say between 30 and 100 million people were killed from the Spanish flu epidemic. Sound familiar? I know our numbers are nowhere near that. But what is similar is that there was a first wave of the Spanish flu, then the second wave. What happened subsequently after that? In 1920, the United States went into a major depression. It went into a major economic depression. And it stayed there all the way until 1921. Why is that important? Because the reason why the country went into a major depression in 1920-21 is because of that Spanish flu epidemic, and because the economy began to stall, similar to when? Right now. So expect things to get worse even beyond the pandemic. That's what I'm telling you. History may not repeat itself, but it absolutely rhymes. Okay, so 1819. So we're at 1920, 1921. So 1920-21, we have a depression, but the difference between the depression in 1921 and the depression in 1929 and the depression that we probably will encounter moving forward is that the United States Treasury and the financial system didn't do anything to stop it. They let it go through the natural process. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. When you go out and you go have a good time with your friends and you drink a lot, and your stomach gets upset, and your stomach is hurting, bubbling, you feel like you have to throw up, the worst thing you can do is really try to keep the poison in your stomach. What you really want to do is throw it up. Let the natural process of getting back to normal begin. So when you throw up, when you have alcohol poisoning from drinking too much alcohol, what you are doing is you are getting the poison and the toxins out of the body in an expeditious manner, as opposed to waiting for them to run through your bloodstream, run through the urine and through the bowel system and all of that, because they're getting in the tissue. If you throw it back up quickly, you won't have as much absorbed in the tissue of the body. Does everybody follow me? So what they did in 1920-21 is they just let the United States throw up and let it go through the natural progression, the country being sick and going through the process. So in doing that, the depression only lasted for 1 year. We were able to move out of it relatively quickly compared to the depression in 1929. Very, very important. So now let's go to 1929. Stock market crashes in October, Black Monday, 1929. Sound familiar? So when the market crashed, it kind of rebounded. It rebounded. They had of the wealthy people at the time all came together. They tried to prop the market back up by buying stock. That's called propping up the market. That in the market, that means the value of the stock is not going up by fundamentals. It's going up because you're injecting liquidity into the market, meaning you're buying stock and it's not worth what you're buying it for. And so that's what they did in 1929. But what ended up happening is when they did that, which is what they are doing right now through the process of quantitative easing, buying corporate bonds and injecting liquidity back into the system will break again. So if you notice, the markets went down all the way to 19,000 from 29,000. And so then what's going on with you, Alan Rockdale? My bad, Rockwell, bro. And so the system propped it back up, and now we're at around, the Dow is at around 24,000. So it'll take if history rhymes, it'll take another hit. Some companies are over leveraged to the point where their PE ratio, meaning their stock price to earnings ratio, is 70. That's insane. That means that you are purchasing the stock at 70 times the value of what the company generates in income. That's why I'm telling people to stay out of the markets right now. And so I'm not going to get into that today because I'm saving that for next week's show. But I'm saying that to say they propped the markets up then, and then it crashed again. And they're propping it up now. Do you think it's going to crash again? That's why studying history is very important. So let's go to 1929. So during that time, so Herbert Hoover. So I just want to talk about some similarities. What's up, Tracy? So Herbert Hoover constructed what they call the Federal Farm Board, and their job was to manage the agricultural sector and all the assets of that company. What's going on with you, Brian King? To where the prices remained affordable and the supply and demand remained balanced. And so because they were stupid, they forced farmers to kill immature livestock, destroy crops, and destroy animals so it wouldn't be an oversupply in the system and destroy the supply and demand balance. Sound familiar? Potatoes in Idaho, up in Idaho, millions of pounds of potatoes being destroyed right now. $700,000 worth of asparagus being destroyed up in Canada. 2 million chickens being destroyed for whatever reason, doesn't matter. All of the pigs being destroyed. And now you look in your grocery stores and the meat aisles, the meat containers are looking empty. Sound familiar? There was 1933 Federal Farmers Board. Look it up. I'm always going to bring you real information. And so in 1929, the country went into a huge depression. And during those struggles, the people who owned precious metals were able to survive that time. So in 1933, what did Franklin Delano Roosevelt do? He decides that he's going to create an act called Executive Order 6102. And in Executive Order 6102, it mandated that all United States citizens they nationalized gold, essentially. All United States citizens had to bring their gold to the United States Treasury, and they were going to give you $20.67. That was the price of gold in 1933, $20.67. As soon as they felt like they got all the gold back in to their possession, they shot the price of gold up to $35. And so the United States dollar at that moment began its trajectory down as a failing fiat currency because he deflated the United States dollar by 40% by increasing the value of gold by 40%, because gold is what the dollar is really measured against, because gold is sound money. The price of gold doesn't go up and down. So when you say, yeah, the price of gold was 1,700 today, it's 2,900 tomorrow, what's happening is the purchasing power of the dollar on the dollar index is decreasing when the price of gold goes up. Gold is not valued by the dollar. The dollar is valued by gold, if you guys understand what I'm saying. Look it up. Look up the COMEX and just do your own research. The commodities exchange. The gold is manipulated on the commodity exchange based on trying to keep people from securing a position in physical precious metals. And they've been doing it since their inception in 1974. And I'm going to explain all of that to you when I get to it. So 1933, he calls all the gold in. What's up, Uniqua? This is very important because what ends up happening is the dollar begins to devalue at this point. So now what he's done is he's depegged the United States dollar from gold. And so now the United States dollar is floating. It's still on a gold, it's still on a gold standard with other countries, but it is not really on a gold standard with citizens. At one point in 1929, you could walk into a bank with a $20 reserve note that had a gold seal on it and give it to them and get a $20 gold piece. The same $20 gold pieces that they are selling right now for $2,000 used to be $20 in 1929. And so in 1929, if you took a $20 bill, which was nothing more than a certificate to redeem, like a receipt at the cleaners to redeem your gold, you could walk into a bank and get a $20 gold piece, put it in your pocket, and you had $20 worth of gold. What's up, Tony? So now what does that mean? That means they stop allowing you to do that. So now you're only trading in fiat currency. So now the currency is only backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government, which is a joke. And so our confidence in the fiat dollar is what gives it its value. Everybody follow me? Okay, wonderful. So let's move. We can shoot past the Great Depression. And as the economy begins to recover, because they had now had all of the gold kind of nationalized and in their possession in Fort Knox, in 1944, essentially what they end up doing, and this is by this time we're in Federal Franklin Delano Roosevelt's third term. By this time, he's been in office for 11 years by this time, right? And so essentially what they do is they convene, because now they want to start doing business, oil, doing commerce all around the world. So they pulled together 44 countries in 1944 and had what they call the Bretton Woods Conference up in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. 44 leaders from 44 countries around the world. At this time in American history, the United States claimed to have over 2/3 of all of the above ground gold reserve. That made the United States currency the world reserve currency. Why? Because they had the most gold, so they say. And at that time, I think that it was true. So of all the gold that had been mined and was above ground in 1944, the United States had more gold than all of the other countries. They had 66% of all the gold reserve that was mined and above ground on Earth, which made the United States the world reserve currency. So now that you understand how the United States became the world reserve currency, I need everybody to send their people over to YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. What's up? How are you? How are you, Aisha? I had a thought at the same time while I was saying hi to you. But at the end of the day, what I was going to say to you is that video was powerful. That I saw that video and it was powerful. That's what I was going to say. And so by this time, 1944, Bretton Woods, now we're in this space where the United States has all the power. And then to add, to increase their power, give me a second, y'all. I'm going to go over here to YouTube and just put a comment in there. And so anyway, so by 1944, they have the United States dollar is the world reserve currency, but also it is also right around this time where Franklin Delano Roosevelt would sit down and meet with King Abdul Aziz of Saudi Arabia and put the play down for the United States dollar to also be backed by the oil and thus create the petrodollar. They met on the USS Quincy in 1945 in the Strait of Hormuz, which is that body of water that all oil and trade goes through from the Middle East when it comes to the United States. And they sat on that ship, and he basically told King Abdul Aziz that we're going to protect you and your military. We're going to make sure don't nobody touch you. You make everybody in the world buy your oil using United States dollar. Once they did that, everybody in the world had to get United States dollars. So when we decided that we wanted to buy a 1945 Mercedes, we could send United States dollars. We could send U.S. Federal Reserve notes, print them up, send them to Germany, and they would send us a car. Why? Because gold has over 50,000 applications and uses, and it is the most important commodity on earth, even to this day. And no other commodity has more applications and uses than oil. And everybody in the world needs it. The world can't function without energy. So all of the countries would take on dollars now, because now the United States dollar is an asset. If I got dollars, I can buy anything in the world because it is pegged to gold and it is a petrodollar. It is pegged to Saudi Arabia's oil, which was the most powerful, which was the largest oil producing nation at that time. And so ultimately, we're going to fast forward for 45 years, the United States dominance. We talking about the end of World War II. The United States is dominant now. So now we're coming back from the war effort, the baby boomers, economy banging, the 50s, the 50s, the 60s. What's up, Mindful B? Hey, Desiree. Hey, sister-in-law. And so the economy is booming. The economy is booming, and the economy is growing. And so that's all the way through the 50s and the 60s. Hey, Dr. Sabrina. And so now when we get to the 1970s, something very important happened. I'm going to tell you, in the late 1960s, something happened. So let's go to 1968. So we're done with 1945, and now the United States has established themselves as the most powerful country in the world by far financially, because you have the petrodollar and you have the gold backing of the United States dollar. So now we move to in the late 1960s. Well, starting in the late 1950s, a gentleman by the name of Charles de Gaulle, who was the president of France, was getting very agitated that the United States was sending dollars all over the world, just printing dollars like they was just making it rain, right? So he goes on national TV in France and says, basically in a speech, that the world has to start to hold the United States accountable. The world has to make the United States pay them in gold, because they printing these dollars up and they just sending these dollars around like they running the show. They can buy anything they want because they're the world reserve currency. And here we are. We have to manage our economy a certain way because our money is pegged to their money. I feel like we getting played. So what he did was, the United States owed France some money from the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War sent us into debt, and we were at a huge balance deficit. And so we were borrowing money from other countries for the war effort, a war we had no business fighting, and a war that we had no business even getting involved in, had absolutely nothing to do with us, right? And so we ended up going into major debt. And so when the countries that we borrowed money from got wind of Charles de Gaulle's speech, they said, maybe we should get our money from the United States. So what France did was they sent Navy warships over here to collect their gold. They sent those dollars back because, don't forget, we were on a gold standard and you could exchange your money in international trade back for United States gold. So the United States paid France in gold and took the dollars back. A few other countries tried it, and in 1971, they call it the Nixon shock. Nixon closed the gold window and took the United States dollar off the gold standard completely and made it a floating fiat currency. When he did that, all the other currencies in the world are pegged to the United States dollar. So that literally created 197 countries of having a dollar pegged to the United States dollar that are floating on nothing. So for the last 50 years, we have been on a fiat currency money standard. That's why I talk about an economic reset, because there's going to be an economic reset, because there's an economic reset every 40 or 50 years anyway. There was an economic reset in 1944. There was an economic reset in 1971, and there's going to be an economic reset soon. And when the economy resets itself, you're going to need to have the assets that can be transferable to whatever the new currency is, whether it's special drawing rights, SDR, from a basket of currencies from all of the countries. What up, Alex? Or whether it's digital dollars, or whatever it is. So you want to have some money in a few different assets so you can protect yourself. But again, that's not for this week. That is for next week. But let's get back. What's up, Revolutionary Mind Cinema? Sultan of Game and Make Peace, Not War. I appreciate that, bro. This man knows what's up. And but no, I don't. No. To your other question, the answer is no. But anyway, thanks everybody who's on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification button and share it with your people. And so, what's going on? What's going on, big homie? Edelon, you good? I hope the two boys is doing good. So, also getting back to 1971. So the Nixon shock. So France sends tankers, Navy fighting ships over to get their gold. A couple of other countries tried it, and Nixon was like, "No, that's not gonna happen. We're not partnering with no more gold. Y'all just got to take that L." So essentially, what the United States did is they essentially just reneged. You're not getting paid. That's essentially how that went down. Keep those dollars and spend them how you've been spending them. You ain't taking no loss. You good. So that's how they played that. So essentially, the United States ends up in the 70s, if you remember, going into what they call stagflation. That's when the economy is at a standstill and consumer prices are rising. They call it stagflation. Very, very bad time in the 70s. But most of us were either not born or babies. But the 70s, it was a hard time in the 70s. The only people that were really getting money in the 70s were people who were working at Great Lakes Steel, because the steel industry was still banging. But it was a few people making money. I'm exaggerating, but you get my point. And so during the 70s, a lot of things took place to where the United States started to realize the fault in not having the money pegged to anything. But the petrodollar was able to recover because of a gentleman who ended up becoming the Federal Reserve Chair named Paul Volcker in the early 1980s. Paul Volcker, what he ends up doing is he ends up sending interest rates, because those are two things that the Federal Reserve can control: the printing of money and then the interest rates. They control the interest rates. So Paul Volcker took our interest rates and banged them up to 20%. So what that did was, if you couldn't afford to buy a house, you didn't buy a house. See, when you lower the interest rates, what cheap money does is it allows anybody who has no business buying a house to buy one. 510 credit score, you make $300 a week, and your house no $1,500 a month. You only make $1,200 a month. You have no business buying a house at this time. Don't get me wrong. I think all people deserve to be homeowners, but you need to position yourself correctly to do it so it can actually be yours and not ever be taken from you. So what Paul Volcker did was raise the interest rates, and he corrected the economy because people couldn't borrow money. Essentially, what interest is that's how much it costs to borrow money. If I loan you $100 and I charge you 10% interest, I'm charging you $10 to borrow my $100. So interest is the cost to borrow money. He increased the cost to borrow money up to 20. And he was able to stabilize the Federal Reserve balance sheet throughout the 80s. And then they were able to do a couple of things. Now, in 1985, they eventually did. What's going on, Rodney? They devalued the dollar again under Reagan so they could right the economy again. But this economy has always been on shaky ground, and a lot of people don't know it. because they don't study the macro side of it. They just know that now my bread costs $2.80 when my bread was only $1. In 1960, a gallon of gas was 50 cents. A gallon of gas was 25 cents, but now a gallon of gas is $1.30. And it's been $4 before. So all we know is consumer prices. We don't understand inflation for what it really is, which is the printing of money and then injecting that money into the economy and then the velocity of that money. That is what inflation really is. Inflation is not prices going up. Prices going up are a byproduct of inflation. Inflation is the printing of money and then that money being injected into the system, you being cheated out of your dollars because they print new dollars and then spending those dollars into existence. You follow me? So don't ever again think that inflation is your bread going up in price. That's a supply-demand discussion in economics 101. Inflation, that is just a byproduct of real inflation, and it's important to do that. Hey, what's up, everybody on Facebook? Thanks for coming on. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share it with all your people. I don't have Instagram, Sultan of Gaming, but we building all that right now as we speak, so we getting it in order. But thanks for the inquiry. What's going on? What's going on, Brother Hayes? Peace to you, King. We're gonna talk soon. And so now, we're from 1987, where they had to play with the money again with the Plaza Accord. Look up the Plaza Accord. That was when Ronald Reagan devalued the dollar again. It just popped in my head while I was thinking. That's when Ronald Reagan devalued the dollar in the 80s. I think it was 85 or 86 or something like that. And then boom, stock market crash 1987. I'm going to fast forward from 87. The 90s were okay. We had a few ups and downs, but in 1999, the dot-com bubble, people started to invest in those tech companies. The dot-com bubble of 2001, another stock market crash, major hit. And the one that you guys are most familiar with and most in tune with is the housing market crash of 2008, where the overbought collateralized the Plaza Accord. The Plaza Accord, Brother Hayes. And so in 2008, you had all of these companies buying these collateralized debt obligations, selling them to the pension funds and all of the people. The poor people went broke, specifically pension funds like the Sanitation Workers of Mississippi. Hedge fund managers took the Sanitation Workers of Mississippi's hard-earned millions of pension fund dollars, invested it into collateralized debt obligations. In 2008, when the market crashed, those poor people lost all their money, and they're still poor right now because of 2008. In the city of Detroit, retired workers lost their pension fund because of collateralized debt obligations, because our city government invested in the stock market through investments with pension funds, which is what they've always done, trying to match that 7% shortfall. And there are people right now, talk to people in the city of Detroit who lost their pensions. They took the city to court and they lost, and they never recovered their money. And if they did, they didn't recover all of it. So 2008 had a profound impact. The stock market was not a national thing. A lot of people on boots on the ground, grassroots people lost money in 2008 with wealthy people gambling with our money that was supposed to be in our bank accounts with collateralized debt obligations and default swaps. Bear Stearns collapsed. Lehman Brothers collapses. They let them collapse. AIG almost collapsed, but they came in. You know, Obama came in with the stimulus and bailed out Chrysler, bailed out GM, and that's how all of this happened. I need you to call so you can pump my people up with something that they need to know. Hit me on Messenger. Oh, no doubt, J-Dub. And that's what we do. This is education for the people. And so this, no, I don't. And so anyway, what's up, Wayne? We're going to be on for about 5 or 7 more minutes. We almost there, y'all. And we getting ready to hit a home run with this thing. So now that was 2008. So in 2009, the Federal Reserve started to pump the system up with liquidity. Barack Obama put the stimulus packages together. All of the stimulus, y'all hear the word stimulus, stimulus, stimulus. We right in the same place right now. They started to print money. They printed money they printed so much money that the Fed balance sheet went sky high. They tried to balance the balance sheet in 2000, between 2016 and 18, and started trying to tried to increase the interest rates, and the economy couldn't take it. So then they had to begin printing money again. And what a lot of people don't know is our financial system. What's going on with you, Nick James? My condolences to you, bro. Hey, Ms. Jones, how you doing? What a lot of people don't know is our financial system almost imploded in September of 2019. In the background, the repo market almost collapsed. The interbank lending behind the scenes, the interest rate went up to 10. Banks wouldn't loan each other money, and the entire economic system almost collapsed in September of 2019. A lot of people don't know that. But with that being said, I've explained to you everything that we need to know and understand about the United States dollar. But there's one more thing I need to explain to you as I transition into the conclusion and what everybody needs to understand about all the information I just shared. In 2019, in April 2019, the International Monetary Fund, the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. What's going on with you, Jason Dixon? In Basel, Switzerland, wrote a paper. And in that paper, it made gold a tier 1 asset. The only other tier 1 asset on the planet is the United States dollar. So why did they make gold a tier 1 asset and it was no longer a tier 3 asset? They moved it up from a tier 3 asset to a tier 1 asset. Let me explain to you what that means. That means all banks who held gold reserves could only claim gold on their balance sheet at the end of the night as 50% of an asset. So that means if the spot price of gold was $1,500, gold could only be claimed on a bank's balance sheet for $750 in value, because the spot price based on the COMEX fluctuates so much it couldn't be a tier 1 asset. It was a tier 3 asset, meaning you could only claim 50% of its value in the banks. In 2019, the Bank of International Settlements decided to make gold a tier 1 asset. What do you think that means? What it means is that they understand that gold's intrinsic value cannot waver and it will never be compromised, and that it is now legitimately a tier 1 asset that the banks can rely on if the banks are close to becoming insolvent. That's what that means. So when they start counting up their assets, what do you own? Okay, we got this gold. Okay, check. We got these dollars. I don't know about those. Those might not be worth anything, but that gold in these banks, in these central banks all over the world, it's a tier 1 asset now. So if it's a tier 1 asset for the banks, it's a tier 1 asset for you. It's a tier 1 asset. It's been a tier 1 asset for 6,000 years. If you put an ounce of gold in your pocket and get on an airplane and go to Italy, when you get off that airplane and you go to the right village, the right downtown district, you got money in your pocket. You got money in your pocket. You understand me? You go to any of these countries with other denominations of paper currency in your pocket, you don't know, you have to go to some currency exchange. You don't know for sure that you can turn that into money. But you can go anywhere on the globe on this earth with gold in your pocket, and they recognize it as money. It's important for y'all to understand that. What's up, Mike Lang? Please tell people, what is the Bank of International Settlements? Okay, so the Bank of International Settlement is the central bank of central banks. So all of the central banks, the Federal Reserve, all the ECB, the European Central Bank, the Central Bank of China, all of these central banks are what you call satellite banks for the Bank of International Settlements. That's the basic and most simple answer, not to confuse anybody on this webcast. So the Bank of International Settlement is the central bank of central banks. What's up, Tina? And thanks for that question, Mindful B. Anthony. So what can gold do for your family? it can protect your family from the dollar hyperinflating away. It is real money. It has been money for over 6,000 years, and it will be money when we are no more. And it is important that you put precious metals in your portfolio, not today, but yesterday. Because everybody who has all of their assets in money that's in the bank, money up under your bed, and money in your pocket are going to take a L. They're going to take a major haircut. You're going to take a major haircut. I want my people to win. I want my people to survive, and I want my people to thrive. And so the Sultan of Gaming on the over here on YouTube asked me, what do I think will happen in the next few months? I think that there are going to be severe food shortages. Thank you for the question. I think that there are going to be severe food shortages. I think that things that we typically buy, what's up, Jeffrey Jackson? Things that we typically buy for $1 are going to be $2. And I think that our money that we earn is going to be spent faster because of some inflationary realities on the consumer side. And in the background, I think the United States will continue to print money, and they will continue to print money, and eventually we're going to get money in a check every month. I think that universal basic income is going to happen, and you're going to need to do some things that make sense with that money. And the reason why they're going to do it is because they're going to want to keep the economy, the velocity of the money going. They want to keep the economy going, so they're going to have to inject liquidity straight into the pockets of the people. Hey, what's up, Val? How are you? And so by injecting money straight into the pockets of the people are going to spend it. Some people are going to spend it. That is what's going to send the consumer prices going up in hyperinflation. So consumer prices into inflation. So even though they're giving you $2,000 a month, you're only going to be able to buy about $800 worth of stuff with it. But what's going to send our money, the United States dollar, into hyperinflation? What's up, Paul? How you doing, Peace Family, over on YouTube? But what's going to send our money into hyperinflation is the reality that other countries are going to start to realize that the dollar is not doing what it's supposed to do. And China is already directly buying oil from I'm going to talk to you about that, Doctor. I'm going to talk about that in a second, Dr. Sabrina. What's up, Gabriel? Other countries are starting to position themselves where they don't need the United States dollar. And once they send those dollars back to the United States in the form of cashing out their treasuries and all the debt that they bought from the United States, China owns some of our debt. Russia owns some of our debt. And the reality is they own our debt. And when those dollars start flying back into the United States, the dollar is going to begin to hyperinflate at a rate that it's going to be scary. And so you're going to need something in your possession. You're going to need something in your possession that protects your wealth from the hyperinflation. If I am wrong, you're still winning, because gold has been money for 6,000 years. Silver has been money for thousands of years. So you're still winning. There is nothing that I have said on this discussion that's going to hurt you. Grow your food, protect your wealth, get you some solar energy, make sure your property is secure, share, like, subscribe this, and share this information with everybody else and with all of your family members so everybody can win. I don't care how much you have, how much you win, and how much money you have. When your people don't have anything, you're still going to be sad. So make sure that your people can win. Send them to my YouTube channel so they can like, subscribe, and hit the notification button so we can continue to educate them so our people can win. Just look at what's happening now with our food shortages coming. Farms destroying pigs, beef, and vegetables. You just hit it, Jeffrey Jackson. And so that's what I think is going to happen. And it's going to be a process. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be a process. And I think that another haircut to the stock market is going to happen. Yes, and you need them for different reasons, Dr. Sabrina. And so a good place, what's going on with you, Mike Hill? So a good place, so someone that I work directly with at Miles Franklin is a gentleman by the name of Maurice Jackson over at Miles Franklin. Offline, all of my people, I'll send you his direct contact info, or I can introduce you to him via a email, and so you can begin to protect yourself and your family. But there's a lot of things about that company that I like, and one of the things that I like more than anything is the way that Maurice Jackson serves his customers. So and the way that he's honest with them, and the way he serves them, and he's very, very consistent in how he treats his customers and his clientele. So that's why I rock with him. I'm seeing it happen now. People will have limited purchases at the market. That's another thing, Rodney. And then I'm gonna close out and get off. It's not necessarily going to be about us having money in our pocket. Our money won't be able to buy some of the things that we want because they won't be on the shelves. So we have to build a relationship with farmers. Think about the farmers out there in Franklin, Michigan. Let's get a conversation going with all of our people in our emergency preparedness group. Hey, what's up, Lottie? Let's get all of our people in the emergency preparedness group to drop comments in of people who do farming. We have Black to the Land. We have Baba Malik Yakini with D-Town Farms. Everybody needs to know where they will be able to take something of value and purchase some food. That's going to be one of the most important things that we need to understand is our food security. But also, more importantly, you need to be securing your food from the grocery stores now. So you want to buy your oatmeal, grits, dry goods, noodles, canned tuna fish, canned meats, fruit, vegetables that are in a can, and load up on those things. Water, get all of those things. We need about 2 years worth of food in our homes that is in our pantry. Then you want to be growing food. So you have 2 layers of protection in conjunction with the other things, because wealth is not just precious metals and money and land. Wealth is our health. Wealth is our food. Wealth is our security. All of those things are wealth. So we have to secure all of them. Everybody follow me? All right, good, man. Hey, you guys were awesome today. What's up, Jay Bell? What's up, Kristen? What's up, Kristen? How are you? You guys were great. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the support over here on YouTube. Everybody who is on this stream, go to the YouTube page, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We are trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. I need your support. I need your help on this. So when you're not doing nothing, just say, hey, Emmett been all right with me. He's bringing wealth education to the people. Let me shoot his link to all the people that I rock with on Instagram, all the people I rock with on Twitter, all the people I rock with on Facebook. I need your help. We have to get this thing. I'm doing my job. I need you guys to do your job. I got all these I got all of these private messages, all of these phone calls and emails about how I needed to up my game. Look how clear that screen is. You don't have to see no background fuzz. We got ring lights on deck. We are getting our software together, our channel art for the YouTube channel. We're going to make this thing rival a real media channel, and it's going to be for you, for the people. So, and this is what we're doing. And so help us get there. Help us get there to where the channel is being monetized so we can go on location, just do all the things that we need to do. And we're going to keep it right where it's at with wealth education for the people. Thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and share over on YouTube. Hit the notification bell for me. Share it with all of your people. I appreciate you. I'm going to jump off YouTube and finish up with my people on Facebook. This has been the Revolutionary Wealth Builders YouTube channel, where we look to destroy debt, poverty, and inequality. Peace. Thanks, everybody, all of the new subscribers. Thanks for everybody for watching. And I'm going to get with y'all on the next one. Peace, family.